A judge in Florida says he is likely to make public at least part of the document detailing the evidence that led to the recent search of the home of former President Donald Trump. Several media outlets are requesting the release, citing the public interest in the case. The former president has also called for its release. Meantime, sources close to the Trump family say that they may release surveillance footage of the FBI search earlier this month. One family member saying that the films would be made public, quote, at the right time. And joining us now is Joy Pullmann, executive editor of the Federalist. Joy, welcome back. Now, what sort of information will these affidavits actually be able to bring us that we don't already know?
Well, that's a really good question because, I mean, at this point in American recent political history, I don't think that we can trust the information that the FBI or the U.S. Department of Justice are putting out. I mean, we just watched, the last 7 years of the Spygate hoax being perpetrated against exactly the same political target, President Donald Trump. And during that entire episode, they were selectively leaking. It was proven by government investigators that FBI agents deliberately falsified documents. They lied to secret FISA courts. So these are not reliable agencies that we can trust, even if we do get a full copy of those affidavits. And I think it's very telling that they're fighting the release of those affidavits, but it's really unclear whether that is for political purposes to make it seem like there's something important in there that there really isn't, or whether that's for legitimate purposes.
And what do you make of the Trump's family claim to release part of the surveillance footage of the raid that took place at Mar-A-Lago?
Well, I think it's very clear in this entire episode that President Trump has been the one who's wanting the release of more documents, and that was also the case with Spygate. Because once all of the information was known, it exonerated him, and it was revealed that these agencies are completely corrupt and in need of thoroughgoing reform. And so that continues the president's historic trend towards saying, get it all into the public eye, because whenever these agencies can hide behind national security and claims and selectively leak, partial bits of information, they use it to frame their political opponents.
And switching gears now slightly, let's go to the publication that you recently did in a series of in-person interviews with Paivi Rasanen, the former lawmaker in Finland who was put on trial for tweeting Bible verses, among other things. And what's the very latest of that case?
Well, I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to meet Paivi and her husband when they came to the United States this summer. And I thought, personally, it's just for me as a woman of faith, I really admire the stand that she has made. And then I learned from interviewing, I asked her a lot more about her personal story, how she came to be in this position, because I do think it's interesting to try to kind of learn how God prepares people to be in the public eye in such a position. So Paivi's case is one that is very likely to have international implications. It's likely to go to the European Court of Human Rights. And it's well known that LGBT activists work across international lines to kind of copy and paste both the strategies and the kind of words that they use. So the case against her is really a telling look at where the LGBT international legal and political movement wants to go, and that is very clearly criminalizing both speech and the expression of religious faith, which historically have been rock solid, actually, the foundations of our natural rights that ensure the equal rule of law and equal rights for every single American citizen.
And your story, the Federalist story, actually made her a star. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've been noticing a very interesting dynamic, and this is historic to the church as well, that persecution and martyrdom not always, but very often has the opposite effect of the intended persecutors. The Bible puts it this way, something that some intend for evil, God uses to bring about good. So I've also been very heartened and inspired to see that happening in Paivi's case, and honestly to learn from, watching with her, interviewing her, and looking into her story deeply. What a woman of integrity she has been behind the scenes, and how she and her husband's strength and their family commitment to each other and their prayers for each other have really enabled her to withstand really international attention, as both hostile as well as, we've seen the Christian church working across international boundaries to support her case, both financially and with prayers all across the world. So it's fun to see kind of a modern day saint persecution hero story happening right in front of our eyes. And that's part of the reason that I've really been interested in watching what happens with her case.
Yeah, most definitely. Our prayers go out to her. And what other stories are you currently following right now?
Well, if you're looking for what I'm working on right now, actually is a look into the politicization of the public library system. So I've been talking actually with networks of people across the United States, noticing, that especially during the lockdowns of COVID, kind of seem to have enabled public libraries to purge a lot of their old and classic books and then replace them with politically correct, really actually not just politically correct, but overtly offensive. I mean, I would characterize it as pornography for children books. And so there are people who are seeing this and are taking action. And that's what I'm working on right now and writing about the sort of ways that they have been alerted to this happening and they've decided to take a stand about it.
Well, thank you so much. Joy Pullmann, executive editor at the Federalist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.